Tonight, were Donald Trump's eyes bigger than America's appetite for change? Polls warned the president that voters think he's doing much too much as the courts tell Trump no. Plus, snafu. The president fires the chairman of the Joint Chiefs months after his Pentagon chief,
you got to fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs,
said to do just that. Also, forget going high.
The fact that I'm rooting for Canada and I'm rooting for Mexico a lot is really wild.
Democrats focus on clicks and clout and owning the conservatives. And, oh brother, really? George Clooney gives an interview that has Democrats' ears burning after reading, as the A-lister directs the media to give themselves a close-up. Live at the table, Jamel Hill, Chuck Rocha, Melik Abdul, Katie Frost, and Joanna Coles. Americans with different perspectives aren't talking to each other, but here they do.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Let's get right to the breaking news tonight. Donald Trump escalates his purge. The president and his defense secretary have fired the nation's top general, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The president thanked CQ Brown for his service, but remember, Pete Hegseth said this about Brown just 3 months ago.
Well, first of all, you got to fire, you got to fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and you got to fire this. I mean, obviously, you're going to bring in a new Secretary of Defense, but any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever, that was involved in any of the DEI woke shit has got to go. Either you're in for war fighting, and that's it, and that's the only litmus test we care about.
One prominent retired four-star general tells CNN that the firing is, quote, sadly political and tragic for our nation. Now, as for CQ Brown's replacement, that person is John Dan Raisin Kane. He's a retired Lieutenant Air Force general who Trump called instrumental in annihilating ISIS. Joining us in our fifth seat at the table is Tanya Domi, a former U.S. Army captain and Columbia University adjunct professor. Tanya, thanks for joining us. What is your reaction to this news tonight?
Well, my reaction is that the Trump Pentagon does not welcome Black people. They're discouraging Black people from joining. There's no home for women. We know also the CNO of the Navy, the Chief Naval Operations Officer, who's a woman, was also fired tonight. The commander of the
The Air Force Vice Chief, we actually have the list up there. The Air Force Vice Chief was fired, the Lieutenant General was also fired, and then 3 JAGs were also fired.
Yes, so there was a purge of the lawyers, the senior lawyers, and the message there is that there's no rule of law left. It's a lawless purge. They removed the lawyers, and you have lawyers at every level of command. And it's a terrible message to send out tonight. And also, it's in the military, what we know is that we come from all different walks of life. We're different races. We have different economic backgrounds or different genders, and that there's no place for disrespect or a lack of respect for the dignity of soldiers.
One of the things to remember about CQ Brown, he was put in his previous position by Donald Trump, and Trump praised him when he did that. He actually was on duty today, as he always is. He was down at the border with our troops down there when this firing order came down. How can we look at this and not see this as just simply Pete Hegseth has decided that he is a symbol of DEI, and that's why he was fired?
I don't want to say it's a symbol of DEI. I mean, this is maybe surprising. No, we've been saying about this. Secretary Hegseth was talking about how he needed to go. But look at what Hegseth is talking about as the Pentagon as a whole. He is looking to completely restructure the approach that the previous administration had.
But that's
so he's
not
going to be
why
replacing a
Hegseth
lot of
said
people.
that's not why Hegseth said he should be fired. He said he should be fired because he was, in his words, involved in DEI. CQ Brown, as far as we know, there's been no indication that he's been fired for cause, that he did anything wrong, that he has some philosophical approach to war fighting that is different from the president's.
I mean, you serve at the pleasure of the president, though. That is the nature of these roles. And so the president is clearly looking to go in a different direction at the Pentagon. So he's going to put a new team in place to do that.
Well, I thought you were going to play that other clip in that, I think that same podcast where Pete Hegseth basically questioned CQ's qualifications because he was black, and he said that in that podcast. That this is in the Associated Press story. His remarks saying, "I don't know if he's qualified. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't," because he was black. So it's hard for anyone to read this, other than the fact, as you pointed out, that this is a very directed purge that has nothing to do with philosophy, that has everything to do with the faces of the military, which Pete Hegseth has said several times that he doesn't respect women soldiers and he doesn't respect people of color serving in these positions. And so by putting this out there, if you're in the military and you're a person of color, or even if you're just a person of color in this country, how are you supposed to feel seeing this?
Which is going to be an issue. There have only been two African Americans who've served as chairman of the Joint Chiefs. CQ Brown was the second. Right. Colin Powell was the first. And he's also now no longer the highest ranking black officer in the military.
We've been hearing a lot about military readiness. A lot of these men and women who got their jobs lost today have spent their whole life dedicated to defending the flag and defending this country, no matter the color of their skin, just like you said. And I think that that's what we have to think about, military readiness, because that's what Republicans have been using to justify some of the DE&I stuff that's been going on within the military and all branches of the government now that Trump's in office. But these are real folks with real experience. You know, I've worked with groups like Vote Vets around the country and worked with folks who I admire every day because of the sacrifices they make for our country. And thinking about these folks that's done this under this auspice and the voter out there and in the focus groups the last election we were in, this is not. Sure, everybody voted for change in some form or fashion, but I don't think this is the change they voted for. And I think there's going to be repercussions for this kind of anxiety now that we're going to have in a tenuous world.
Before you jump in, I want to ask you about something you raised too, the JAG situation.
Yes.
These are the military lawyers.
That's right.
Three of the highest-ranking military lawyers were. They're saying they're accepting nominations. Presumptively, they're being fired. This is also a Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, who in his confirmation hearing, he was questioned about his use of the term jag-off, and he suggested that JAGs, rather than enforcing the law, they are trying to get promotions and that they don't have the best interest of rank-and-file soldiers.
Well, I deeply disagree with that conclusion.
And we can't forget also Pete Hegseth advocated to Trump for pardoning people who were accused of war crimes.
Yes,
so
he
put
did.
that all together.
Yes, I mean, the fact is he convinced Trump to issue pardons to 3 officers who were engaged in war crimes. And people witnessed that. And when you don't take accountability, that actually diminishes unit cohesion. Because when people are treated differently and it looks unfair, then that is a real demoralizing occurrence. And I would add that when you take out the top legal officers, you're talking about the White House sees itself as the law and order over the armed forces, but actually you need lawyers at every level of command. And I would add that this is a readiness issue, because what's happening now is that the Trump White House is playing a subtraction game. And the military has not been able to achieve its recruiting goals, and they certainly aren't going to be able to do that with white men only. This is a very diverse union. It's a unit, and it's probably the best example of America at its best. It's really a travesty.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that they want to start to now influence how the law is effectively enforced within the military, why would they do that?
Well, there are a number of things that the Trump administration do that is cause for concern for a number of people. But in this case, I don't have a problem with the dismissals, and I think that we do Brown a disservice by assuming that he's being let go because he's black, because then that means that he was chosen because he was black. And I don't think that he was
Why would that mean that? He's a 4-star general. He was picked by Trump, actually.
But I'm saying the conversation that we're literally having around the table is that the reason he was let go is because of his race.
Well, the only reason we're saying that is because Pete Hegseth said he should go because
he's going to have
diversity.
to, he's going to, and the Trump administration, because they've kind of jumped into this DEI things, a lot of things that they've said, they're going to have to answer for. But I think we should put that aside from why he was let go. Obviously, there were conversations for months now about the fact that CQ Brown would be leaving. Well, it's happened now. And I think we, again, do him and all of women, men, people of color in the military a disservice to say that if Donald Trump takes an action, then the reason he's taking that action is because of race. I don't think
that we're responsible for making that connection. Pete Hegseth is.
Because his comment was it when he talked about whether or not the position that CQ Brown was in, he said, was it because of his skin color or his skill? We'll never know, but there's always doubt.
And that's what I said.
They have to answer
the question of race. They have to answer to that, much like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk made the comments about the pilot saying that he's now going to feel uncomfortable. That's different from the firing, though. You can't say that he's fired because he's black.
Okay, hold on. Let's just break this down.
Well,
Pete Hegseth
like a pretty unwelcoming
he is the Secretary of Defense. He said 3 months ago.
Before he was Secretary of Defense.
Right, but okay, he said 3 months ago, CQ Brown should be fired. He said so because he said he doesn't know if he's qualified because he's black. Maybe he got his promotion because he's black, or maybe he didn't. He questioned this man's qualifications after 40 years in the military. But I want to, okay, Pete Hegseth aside, CQ Brown aside, the person that Trump has chosen to replace him, this is the other part of the coin. It's what Pete Hegseth has said, and then there's also the kind of political loyalty that's at the heart of it. Here's what Donald Trump has said about Raisin Cain, who is replacing him.
So I walked down, and this is where I met General Raisin Cain. And what's your name? General, what's your name? And he gave me his name. What's your name, Sergeant? Yes, sir, and I love you, sir. I think you're great, sir. I'll kill for you, sir. Then he puts on a Make America Great Again hat. You're not allowed to do that, but they did.
What's wrong with that?
I didn't say anything was wrong with it. I'm just saying this is the context in which this is all happening. Trump is not... he doesn't give us a lot of surprises. He likes people who love him and who are loyal to him.
Well, and especially after the last 4 years that he went through and seeing a lot of people who were part of his administration who then went out and were saying a lot of very negative things about him, he feels they were disloyal to him. So he's going to be very serious about making sure he has people who he knows he can count on. And I'll say we had the race conversation. It's not the first time relationships have soured between President Trump and the Pentagon. I mean, he's been very upset with the top generals before, General Milley, General Mattis, and race wasn't an issue there. It's just there's a very difference in their approach and leadership styles.
As far as I know, I have not heard Trump say anything about CQ Brown and things that he has actually done. So that's the other part of it, is that there's really not a lot there except for Pete Hegseth's comments. I want your take on that last piece.
Sure, but I just want to add, on the first day of the Trump administration, the commander of the Coast Guard was fired, a woman. Nobody said anything about it. It kind of got buried in 31, executive orders. So that's another person, and that's gone from leadership. And this really is a readiness issue.
Yeah. We now have 2 members of the Joint Chiefs who are out tonight. Not unprecedented necessarily, but certainly notable, a notable start to this Trump administration. Tanya Domi, thank you very much for joining us. Everyone else, stay with us. More breaking news tonight. The courts are delivering Trump some very bad news tonight, including a judge blocking his efforts to get rid of DEI across the entire government. Stay with us.